Here's part 2. Hi, boys and girls. This is called Alligator Baby. One night, Kristen's mother woke up and yelled, "A baby! A baby! I'm going to have a baby!" Kristen's father jumped up and zoomed around the room, got dressed, and grabbed Kristen's mother by the hand. They ran down the stairs to the car and they drove really fast. Everybody drive fast. Vroom! Unfortunately, they got lost. They didn't go to the hospital. They went to the zoo. But it was okay. Kristen's mother had a lovely baby. Then she drove home and knocked on their front door. We're going to knock 5 times. Ready? Blam, 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 blam. Kristen opened the door, and there was her mother holding something all wrapped up. "Kristen," she said, "would you like to see your new baby brother?" "Oh, yes," said Kristen. So Kristen lifted up the bottom of the blanket, and she saw a long green tail and said, "That's not a people tail." Kristen lifted up the middle of the blanket and saw a green claw and said, "That's not a people claw." Kristen lifted up the top of the blanket, saw a long green face with lots of teeth and said, "That's not a people face. That's not my baby brother." "Now, Kristen," said her mother, "don't be jealous." Just then the baby reached up and bit Kristen's mother on the nose, and she yelled, "Ah!" Everybody do that. "Ah!" Then the baby reached up and bit her father on the nose, and he yelled the same thing. Ready? "Ah! That's not a people baby," said Kristen. "That's an alligator baby." "Goodness," said her mother, "we've got the wrong baby." So Kristen put the alligator baby into the fish tank, and her mother and father drove back to the zoo. They came back an hour later and knocked on the door 5 times. Ready? Bam, 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 bam. Kristen opened the door, and her mother said, "Would you like to see your new baby brother?" "Oh, yes," Kristen said. Kristen lifted up the bottom of the blanket, and she saw a fishy tail. She said, "That's not a people tail." Kristen lifted up the middle of the blanket and saw a flipper, and she said, "That's not a people flipper." Kristen lifted up the top of the blanket, and she saw a face with whiskers, and she said, "That's not a people face. That's not my baby brother." "Now, Kristen," said her mother, "don't be jealous." Just then, the baby reached up with its flapper and flapped the father in the face. Whap, 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 whap. And he yelled, "Ah! It's a seal baby. We've got the wrong baby." So Kristen put the seal baby in the bathtub, and her mother and father drove back to the zoo. They came back an hour later and knocked on the door 5 times. Blam, 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 blam. They said, "Kristen, would you like to see your new baby brother?" "Oh, yes," said Kristen. She lifted up the bottom of the blanket, and she saw a very hairy leg and said, "That's not a people leg." She lifted up the middle of the blanket and saw a very hairy arm and said, "That's not a people arm." She lifted up the top of the blanket and saw a very hairy face and said, "That's not a people face. That's not my baby brother." "Now, Kristen," said her mother, "don't be jealous." Then the baby reached up with his feet and grabbed the mother's ear and her father's ear, and they both yelled, "Ah! It's a gorilla baby. We've got the wrong baby." "Let me do it," said Kristen. So her mother and father put the gorilla baby on the chandelier in the living room, and Kristen went off to the zoo on her bicycle. First, Kristen looked at the snake cage. No people babies. Then Kristen looked at the wombat cage. Nope, no people babies. Then Kristen looked in the elephant cage. Nope, no people babies. Then she stopped and listened, and from far away she heard, "Wah, wah, wah." "That's more like it," said Kristen. She followed the sound. It was coming from the gorilla cage. And right now we're going to do da-na-na. Ready? Part 2 is coming up.